Hey everyone, I'm Eric Tyron Davis, senior producer here in Los Angeles. As many of you know, the LA office houses several disciplines working across multiple aspects of Star Citizen. So we wanted to give you a quick update on the progress we've been making. One of our biggest teams is the technical content team, led by the great Sean Tracy. Members of his team span across 3 time zones. And if you were to describe that team, the function of that team on a t-shirt, it reads something like solving problems you didn't know you had in ways you wouldn't understand. So to understand those solved problems, here's some of the things that they did. To start, a portion of the team is working with engineering on the new damage system. As we've shown in the past, some ships are already using the new damage system, which create much more random and organic damage effects via procedurally generated materials and an internal skeleton that appears when the metal just melts away. We've also been working on adding the physics-driven destructible behavior to our item system 2.0. Initially, this just meant converting the existing functionality into the new item 2.0 health and damage system. However, this work is much more than just a port. Networking, persistence, and VFX functionality will be improved, and it also extends destructibility to a broader class of entities, including props. Members of the tech content team also work with animation to implement the introduction of facial idols for pilots of all ships. Now, no more death stares when flying over to save someone from Korea. Additionally, tech content developed a tool for marking up zones that are used by the renderer to hide and show different areas on a character mesh when layered pieces of clothing and armor are equipped. So basically, if your character is wearing a shirt and then you put a jacket on, the zone culling tells the renderer to hide and ignore any part of the shirt that is out of sight. One of tech content's many contributions to this powerful feature was to create a tool that automatically zones and splits any number of assets regardless of topology. This allows us to quickly implement the zone culling feature onto an already massive database of character art in a fraction of the time. So in a nutshell, as opposed to manually updating existing armor and clothing to work with this new feature, this tool will automate that process and save us a lot of dev time. Now, our tech design team has been working on many different elements of the game. And one of their many tools to help everyone visualize expected gameplay is to develop prototypes of upcoming features and gameplay. Recently, we've had 2 prototypes come out of tech design. The first was based off of Chris's initial vision for the interaction system, which in a nutshell is the interface by which players will be able to control and manipulate various objects in the game world, such as ships, control panels, weapons, and a whole lot more. Once they roughed out that system, they worked with programming and UI to ensure that the prototype functionality was not only clear on what we're trying to achieve, but actually possible. And the second prototype was how the player controls the properties of items to manage their signals generated by entities like spaceships. For example, how the power is managed to shields, weapons, and thrusters, which allow us to manage our emissions and engage in a kind of a stealthy gameplay. The foundational work of this prototype will allow us to change properties of these items so that we can determine how upgrading will be desirable and fixes our previously limited system, which we were unable to balance, and provide a much more direct way to implement gameplay via simple numerical values. They're also deep into the setup of the Drake Cutlass Black, Buccaneer, and the rework of the RSI Aurora, as well as another ship we can't quite discuss yet. And lastly, they're taking a pass at updating our ship stats page on the website to bring all the information about our ships up to the most current specs. As part of this change, we plan on providing regular updates about any changes to each of our ships going forward. Now, over on the engineering side, the team has been working on instance properties, which allow designers to modify any part of an entity component in editor or in game. With this feature, designers do not have to create tons of similar entity templates for our game. They just need to expose some parameters, which the designer can then modify inside the editor. This will save asset storage space and really reduce the number of entity components, but at the same time, allow for much more variations. And obviously, with the ultimate aim to create seamless transitions through our entire universe, the engineering team is making progress on object container streaming by changing some of our core engine code, which will radically increase the amount of content we can put in the game all at once without sacrificing any performance. For example, we're currently replacing the old prefab system in the hangar and shops with an object container in the preparation for this expected streaming. On the radar front, we've added an extra timer value to the object data bank, which will be used to specify how much time an entry can remain as an echo contact, as well as implementing the metadata component interface, which is an entity component that can be attached to any entity to make them radar detectable. We've also added an object databank linking and unlinking feature so that entities will inherit databank entries from their parent. This will allow a player to inherit information from the ship he or she is currently sitting in. And then we're also working on new scanner gameplay tied into the new radar system that build on the mechanic of revealing more or hidden information on radar objects. We're really excited about this addition because it will have a lot of potential elements to scanning another ship and will be instrumental in the eternal struggle between smugglers and law enforcement, for example. Lastly, the engineering team is working on lighting states to provide a little bit more context when it comes to space stations, ship interiors, and other sorts of man or alien-made environments. We want the lights to be able to have various altered states to reflect certain situations, like low power or emergency lockdown. While we currently have a way to accomplish this using layer switching, it has its downsides, such as requiring duplicate lights for each state and having no options for transition animations. We're therefore developing a new entity called a light group that will take control of these lights that are assigned to it. With its own internal state machine, the light group will be able to modify its lights depending on the current state. For example, switching from a normal light state to an emergency light state and then back. You can think of it as the ultimate light switch. Now, over on the character side, we've moved further down the pipeline on many of our new outfits. Specifically in Squadron 42, we have lots of deck crew who work a variety of jobs, and some of them need to work on the exterior of ships in the vacuum of space. This deck crew outfit is coming along nicely and is firmly in the high poly modeling phase. Also, you've seen the Explorer spacesuit recently in the newsletter and on our previous updates, and it's moving along nicely as well. The team is finalizing texturing and has already been sent to rigging, which will allow us to get it tested in-game in the very near future. And last but not least, we're working very hard on the Heavy Armor class for both Marine and Outlaw. We now have the 3D concept for the Heavy Outlaw going through rounds of feedback, and once that concept's approved, it'll move right on into the high poly modeling phase. While the Heavy Marine is in engine and headed over to the rigging team, then on to the final implementation. Well, that wraps us up for the LA Studio update. Thank you very much for your support, and see you again soon.